Welcome to today's video where I will be making my reading journal setup for February. I have read quite a bit last month and being able to track them all in this journal has been great, which is why I am glad that I am finishing up my setup right now. For this month, I am going to be using only pens and markers for the setup. Hope you like the video and let's get started on making the setup now. For this month, I am doing cursive for the lettering. I think it works well with the theme I chose this month, which is strawberries. I am using the fine tip part of the marker rather than the brush side of the marker for making the cursive this month. I didn't want to draw strawberries all over the place, so I added a frame with a ribbon around the strawberries so as to limit how many I can draw at a time. How I ended up picking strawberries for the theme is that in one of my weekly spread setups last month, I used strawberry stickers, which gave me the idea of having a strawberry theme. I would have used the strawberry stickers for making the setup, but I only had a single sticker sheet, which is why I just drew inspiration from it. For the color palette, the main colors are greens and pinks. I would have used red over pink for the strawberries, but I have a lot of pink markers and only one reddish marker, and I didn't want it to run dry. Then for the frames and backgrounds, I am using brown toned markers primarily, but at times I do use pink toned markers for these areas as well. I am making library lists different this time. Usually I make a box area to keep the list of books I am thinking of borrowing organized, but I wanted to try out a less structured layout this month, just writing the books I might want to borrow wherever on the page. I am not sure how this is going to work out for me. The nice thing is that I can try this out this month and then change it in next month's setup if I don't like it. I like using a bullet journal for making my reading tracker and my overall journal planning because it's just a way that I can see what works and a lot of trial and erroring, but it makes me feel like I have something that I like compared to if I use the traditional journal planner, whatever, for these things, because then I would have to use what is used there because it's made rather than me making it and being able to edit it whenever I want, which is why I really like bullet journals. Adding strawberries around the page, I am trying to keep my pages balanced between drawings and having enough space to write on. Doing the same for the quote spread, no structure. I tend to always keep this structureless because I don't know how much I will write in this area. Last month, I read a book that I ended up writing a lot of sentences down from. Not having a specific amount of space for this was very helpful because I could write wherever I wanted on the page and had enough space. When I make frames, I like to point out where the corners are. I am using a ruler and the ruler covers the lines when I use it, so I don't know where I drew the corners, which can have me passing where I was supposed to stop and having a longer line on one side. I don't know if I am making sense, but to avoid that, I made the curved inward corners before I make the lines with the ruler. This method helps me with stopping my lines at the correct time and not having them get longer than needed. Having the reading trackers as a calendar to track how much I read each day is the best way for me. What I noticed for February is that there are 28 days and I have 4 whole weeks that have all 7 days. The calendar looks so neat because there isn't an extra day to make the calendar uneven, so it's a perfect rectangle. And I just found that so interesting that I wanted to point it out. I'm not sure if this has happened before in a February, but I just really like how it looks. Like last month, I am extending the calendar onto another page so that I can cut out the page and on the back add a space for color coding system that I make. I really like the size of my calendar, but I have been thinking recently if I should make the calendar a bit bigger, not wider, but taller, just because I have 4 lines for it and I sometimes tend to run out of space. And I don't want it to be too big like an actual calendar, but I will see if I will change it next month. I do want to at least try it at least for 1 month just to see if I prefer having like 5 lines rather than the 4 lines I have. So I think I will try that next month just so that I can try it out and see how it feels. And that's a great thing about having a bullet journal is I could change it the next month back to this and I don't have to continue having the same amount of lines. I had a bit too much space for this area last month, so I am fixing that this month by adding decoration on the extra little side page that I made for color coding system. Last month, I had books on the back of a book log, and I fixed that this month. Now I put the books I finished in February next to my color code system. I like to use this area to write down the books I finished this month as well as my rating, and it feels better to have it next to the color code system rather than next to a book log because it just, to me, does not fit well. So this way it looks better and the book logs can be together this month. That's why I really like being able to make my own setups by hand because I can always fix something if I find it irritating or I don't like how it turned out. I don't have to worry. I can just fix that and have notes on what to do different for the next month. Then this month for book log, I have both of the logs next to each other so I can tell what books I have been reading, and it just works better for me this way than having it like I had it last month, which was separated. I prefer them facing each other. I am going to continue to use 3 lines for each of the books. I like having the extra space because sometimes the book titles can be very long, and this way I shouldn't have an issue with not having enough space to write in. I also like to include in the table that I made an area where I assign a color to the book I am reading so that I can just use the marker color in the calendar to track the book I am reading, rather than writing out the whole title in the calendar, which is very long and would give me less space to write in the calendar. I am keeping the overview spread the same. I have 2 pages for it with a middle page cut out. I am going to continue making tables or bar graphs this month rather than pie charts. They are easier to fill out and to update throughout the month than a pie chart is. I like to know what I read more of and see if there's a difference from one month to another. For that reason, I added a couple more book stats to look into when it comes to genres. I am not sure of the difference between broad genres like fiction and nonfiction and more specific genres like romance and thrillers. I wasn't sure if I was naming them correctly, so I looked more into it. And from what I gathered, genres is fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and other, while subgenres are for romance, thrillers, mysteries, etc. Now, knowing this, I have a place for genres, how many fiction, nonfiction, poetry books I've read. I've not read a poetry book actually before, but I have been interested in reading one, and that is one of my goals for this year. Then I have subgenres for nonfiction. I'm curious to see what kinds of nonfiction books I tend to read. I have been reading quite a lot of cookbooks and craft books, and those are under nonfiction, so I want to see how this will look at the end of the month. I just wrote down for the subgenres what genres I could remember at the moment when I was making the setup, which is why I left extra space to add other genres. I am keeping the most liked and least liked book area simple. The plan is that I have space to write out the title of the book and my thoughts on it, why I found it to be the book I liked the most this month, or why I liked it least. I like having a small area for this rather than an entire page for it, which is why I have it a cutout for overview, and it also makes sense to have this an overview because it is an overview of the month, and these are the books I liked or least liked of the month. This is the last spread for the setup. Yay! I think this might be the spread that I am most consistent on. I just write out reading notes and then draw or add decoration, and I am done. For me, this is the equivalent to brain dump that I use in my monthly setups in my other journal. I have it to write out my thoughts on a book, whether that is literally when I am reading it or after I finished it and I want to gather my thoughts and better organize them so that I have a consensus of what I thought of the book. It's just a place to write whatever I want in terms of books, and this can also extend out of these 2 pages. I just do 2 pages for this in the setup, but I can always use the other pages at the end to continue writing here my notes on books. Sometimes this gets very long because I read books or have a lot of strong opinions on a book, and I just feel the need to explain it all. And sometimes I write like really big or I write really small, so again, it depends on how I feel and how my writing is at the moment. Having strawberries for the theme this month has been nice. I liked making the frames and ribbons. The ribbons were so fun to draw and color in, and I really want to make more ribbons in a future setup. Hopefully this month I will also be reading consistently like I was in January. Thank you for watching, and until the next video, goodbye!